Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalam. Ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Hunna libasul lakum wa antum libasul lahunna. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. I welcome all of you with Islamic greetings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May peace, mercy and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be on all of you. Today, we are going to have a special session. The name of this session is Better Half or Better Half. And in this session, you are most welcome to ask any questions that are related to marriage, related to choosing a life partner, any question related to how to conduct a nikah, or any questions after marriage or how a married life goes on. In short, questions before you say I do, or before you say Kabul hai, or before you say that I accept it, and questions after you say I do, or after you say Kabul hai, or after you say I accept it, so that a person's married life is as per Quran and Sunnah. In short, today's question and answer session would be dealing with how to have a successful marriage, questions on wedlock or padlock. So if the marriage is successful, it's a wedlock. If it's not, becomes a padlock. So there are special sessions, and that is the reason, mashallah, we have got more sisters than gents, and we have more than 50 sisters and about 10 gents. So as to do justice to both, we'd expect about 5-6 questions from the sisters and then 1 question from the brothers. So any question related to marriage, nikah, please don't ask general questions on fiqh and masail. Any question related with nikah, before nikah, choosing a life partner, after marriage, questions related to married life can be asked. Don't ask general questions on women's rights or men's rights. That can be dealt in another session. So brothers and sisters are most welcome to ask any questions on better half or better half, wedlock or padlock. Yes, I'm most welcome. Yes, sister, most welcome. Yes, sister.
My question is nikah compulsory in Islam?
Sister has a question that is nikah compulsory in Islam? Though normally in the nikah khutbah we say that nikah is sunnah of the Prophet. But since the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Nisa, chapter 4, number 3, that marry women of your choice. So based on this, and our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that anyone who does not marry is not of me. So according to me, nikah is compulsory. Though there are many scholars, or most of the scholars, who say that nikah is a sunnat-e-muaqqada, a very important sunnah, but I feel that nikah is a fard, unless you have a very valid reason where the fard can be avoided. Otherwise, generally, like how pork is haram, but if you're dying of hunger and pork is the only thing that can save you, for that time it becomes permissible. So according to me, I feel nikah under normal circumstances is a fard, and it's the duty of every man or a woman to get married. And our beloved Prophet Muhammad said, it's hadith mentioned in Sahih Bukhari, volume number 7, in the book of nikah, chapter number 3, hadith number 4. Our beloved Prophet said, O young people, whoever has the means to get married should get married. That means it's a commandment of the Prophet. So based on this hadith and the other hadith that whoever does not marry is not of me, based on this hadith I consider that nikah to be a fard. It is a fard on every man and woman. Hope that answers the question. Any other sister?
What is the Islamic criteria for selection of a husband or a wife?
As far as the criteria for selection of the husband and wife, the best answer I can give is the hadith of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, mentioned in Sahih Bukhari, volume number 7, in the book of nikah, hadith number 5090, where our beloved Prophet said that when a person chooses a life partner, the person looks for 4 things. He looks for beauty, wealth, nobility and virtue. And amongst these, the best is virtue. So normal human beings, when they select a life partner, whether a boy selects a girl to be a wife or a girl selects a boy to be a husband, normally a person looks for 4 things. 1 is beauty, 2nd is wealth, 3rd is nobility, and 4th is virtue. And amongst them, the most important, the Prophet said, is virtue. That means if a person seeks a beautiful wife or a girl seeks a handsome husband, so it's permissible. It's not haram. Similarly, if a lady seeks a very rich husband, or a boy seeks a very rich lady in marriage, it's permissible. Similarly, if a person seeks for a family to be married in a noble family, a boy looking after a noble girl from a noble family, and a girl is looking for a boy who belongs to a noble family, it's permissible. But amongst all these, the last one, that is virtue, is the most important. A virtuous husband or wife, a virtuous spouse is the most important out of all these 4 criteria. That means if you have to compromise in any of these 4 criteria, you can compromise on the first 3 but not the last. If you can get a spouse who has all the 4 criteria, that is sone pe sohaga. It is the best. If you get a boy who's handsome, who's wealthy, belongs to a noble family, and very virtuous, alhamdulillah, go for it, don't lose him. Similarly, if a boy gets a very beautiful girl, and a very wealthy girl, belongs to a noble family, and very virtuous, alhamdulillah. But these things are normally very rare. It's like in a fairy tale, you're waiting for the Prince Charming, or the Princess Charming. So don't be in a world where, if I want, unless I don't get, I'll not marry. So the time will never come. If you can get someone, it's possible, but it's not probable. The possibility is there, but the probability is very negligible. So if you have to compromise in the criteria, you can surely compromise in the first 3. But see to it that you don't compromise in the last criteria, that is virtue. Hope that answers the question, sister. Can we have the next question, please?
What procedure can be followed in selecting an Islamic life partner?
This is the question, that what procedure can be followed in selecting a life partner. The procedure, as was mentioned in the earlier question, that what are the criteria for selecting a life partner? As I said, that it is beauty, it is wealth, nobility, and virtue. On these 4 basic criteria, you have to try and select a life partner. The procedure can be that first you yourself to be convinced that the partner that you want to marry should be virtuous, and convince yourself first that for me virtue is more important than beauty or wealth or nobility. You get convinced, and then convey the message to your parents first. Convey the message to your parents, because the parents may have a different view. They may think, okay, I want a very handsome boy, and I want my girl to get married to a very wealthy boy. So first you get convinced first on the Quran and Sahih Hadith, and then convey that message to your parents and tell that, because they will be the closest to you who would be looking for a match for you. So convey that message so that it doesn't happen that they decide that this boy is good and he may not fit your criteria. So first convince your criteria that you have to your parents and convey the message to them so that you and them are in the same wavelength. It should not be that their requirement is different, yours is different. And you should not feel shy about it. Finally, they are parents, so convey it to them. And then you can convey that to the relatives and to your close friends that I'm looking for a boy who's virtuous, who's Islamic, and let the message pass on amongst your close relatives and your close friends. First is the parents, then your relatives and friends. And the third would be you can approach any Islamic organizations who can help you find a match. Since you're not looking for someone who's wealthy, if you're looking for someone wealthy, then you have to go to the billionaire club, There's a millionaire club and a billionaire club. So if your criteria is wealth, then you have to go to the billionaire club and try and find one. If your criteria is handsome, or for the boy it's beautiful, then you have to go to the beauty contest and see who you want. Because the basic criteria is Islamic, so go to Islamic organizations. And you can give your resume. See to that your resume is also on the same line, giving your details, the basic details, height, complexion, etc. And your likes and dislikes. In that you can mention you like to have a husband who's virtuous, etc. And see to it you can collect resume from Islamic organization. Or if you know of any marriage bureau which is based on Islamic guidelines, that would be the best. That approach a marriage bureau which is based on Islamic guidelines. Unfortunately, majority of the so-called Muslim marriage bureaus also are more of cultural based rather than the criteria being Islamic. You may know of many marriage bureaus run by non-Muslims, many marriage bureaus run by Muslims, but the criteria may not be based on Quran and Sunnah. Yet you can give your biodata there, it's no harm, but preferable to try and select a marriage bureau whose criteria of selection is based on Quran and Sahih Hadith. The first level is the parents, then your relatives, friends, the Islamic organizations. Furthermore, it can be possible that you can let the people know about your selection in Islamic magazines, maybe local, maybe international Islamic magazines. Many of the Islamic magazines have a section on marriage. Wanted brides, wanted bridegrooms. You can even give in general papers like Times of India, no problem. You may never know, it may click. You can even use the internet, but using the internet you have to be careful. Many times it leads to deviation. So can use, but with the purview of the Islamic Sharia. And you yourself should prepare your own resume and give the criteria that you want in your resume, that I would prefer a husband who is Islamic, is virtuous, etc. If a boy is writing, okay, I want a girl who is virtuous, you can't say beauty is the criteria but not of ultimate importance, may not be the most important. You can write, not that you cannot write if you want a beautiful girl. So in this way you make a resume, and this will help you in trying to find a right life partner. And then once, if you go for an interview, the list of questions already were discussed. The list of questions that you can ask. But see to it that when you conduct a preliminary round where you're going to select a life partner, see to it that it is Islamically done. That don't go and meet around to go and meet, maybe in a garden, or I'd like to meet you in a movie theater in the last row. See that done Islamically. Either you call the boy to your house or you go to the boy's house, no problem. But see to it that there's a mahram. So the girl should either have the father or the brother with her, and the boy should maybe have a mother or sister. So in the company of a mahram, and when questions are asked, if a mahram is there, it is preferable. I feel there is no problem in having a mahram if you're asking questions which are based on Quran and Sunnah. If you're asking questions otherwise, there may be problems. Or if you think it's a requirement that no, there may be certain personal question I don't know anyone else to know, which I don't think so it arises, then see to it that you speak in a hall which has doors which are open, and see to it that the distance between the two opposite sex is far enough, Islamic distance is maintained. And this way conducted, and then if it fits your criteria, then inshallah you can go ahead judging the pros and cons. Hope that answers the question, sister. Can we have a question from the gent side? I think we already had 4 or 5 from ladies. Any gents? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
What would you suggest?
Before you say I do, after you say I do? Before you say I do. You married or not married?
No, I'm not married.
MashaAllah. So before you say I do.
Yeah.
What would you suggest for the reverts to Islam? I mean, should they live with their parents, or maybe should they prefer a revert as well? So, I mean, could you just throw some light on this?
Well, ask the question that what is your suggestion for reverts, and I believe that Brother Shams is a revert. Alhamdulillah. What suggestion for a revert? That after marriage, he's not asking selecting the life partner. After marriage, should he stay with the parents or non-Muslims, or should he shift outside, or should he marry a girl who is born in a Muslim family, or marry a revert? The best would be that convince your parents, make them Muslims and stay with your parents. The best. Fine. Secondly, depending upon how your parents are, how well they've accepted you. If they've accepted you well and you feel it can be a smooth sailing, then there is no harm in continuing staying with your parents even after marriage. Smooth sailing doesn't mean everything is green. Smooth sailing means three little problems. Because if your parents are non-Muslims and after you marry, there will be problems. But if you think the problems are not much and which can be handled, then I feel there is no harm in trying and staying. And if it turns out to be difficult, then later on also you can shift. So I prefer giving it a try first, unless you are sure that it's difficult. My parents haven't accepted, then you can shift out and it'd be good to your parents and take care of your parents. Because as a duty, as a son, you have to take care of your parents, irrespective whether your parents become Muslim or not. You have to obey them as long as they don't go against Quran and Sunnah. So your duty as a son is there, and your Jannah is beneath the feet of your mother. Even if she's a non-Muslim, yet you have to follow her commandments. Only those which go against Quran Sunnah you can maybe disobey. But the other things, see to it that you love her more, etc. As far as, is it preferable to marry a revert? Or is it preferable to marry a Muslim girl who's already born in a Muslim family? Again, who is more virtuous of the two, you marry her. So you find a virtuous girl who's a revert, compared to a girl who's already born in a Muslim family, but following more of culture, not following Islam, then the virtuous girl is more important. But if you get a girl in a Muslim family, she's more virtuous and this girl is less virtuous, then better marry a girl who's born in a Muslim family. But if exactly both are on the same level, if you say everything is same, the beauty is same, the wealth is same, nobody is same, virtue is same, then which is better? Then I would say that out of the two, the better would be marry a girl who's born in a Muslim family. Because then there will be pressure from two sides. There will be pressure from your wife's side and from your side to handle the in-laws. So that will be maybe a little bit of a more burden. At least you get support from one side. But if the revert is very virtuous and very strong, high taqwa, then the other girl who's born in a Muslim family may get family support, but taqwa is not high, then better marry a girl who has high taqwa and is a revert. But generally, if both is same, I would prefer that, normally people think, oh, revert is better. Yes, it can be in some cases, but not always. Revert, so easily acceptable. But then many a time, many things may not be known which is known to a person who's born in a Muslim family, brought up in a Muslim family, and you may do things which are wrong and which is normally known by the Muslims because of regular action. And then the pressure from both the sides may be too difficult to handle. Or maybe, so there are more chances of deviating from the truth. Not that you will, depend upon each one's taqwa. If taqwa is strong, nothing can shake. Taqwa and the iman is strong, nothing can shake. But if both are average, virtue, average, everything, so I would personally suggest that it's preferable that a revert marries a person who's born in a Muslim family. But again, virtue is more important criteria than only this. Hope that answers the question. Any sisters have any questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I want to know what would comprise of an ideal Islamic nikah.
Sister has a question that what would comprise of an ideal
Islamic nikah, yes.
Ideal Islamic nikah. If both the spouses are ideal Muslims, then inshallah the nikah also would be ideal. That's number one criteria. If both of them, they would be husband and wife, ideal Muslims, alhamdulillah, automatically the nikah will be ideal. But in terms of other things, our beloved Prophet ﷺ said that the best marriage is that in which the least expense is made. See to it that it's not extravagant. We are talking more about the function rather than, after selection of the husband and wife. See to it that the nikah ceremony you do, it should be Islamic. Most of the people are more involved in saying how glamorous it is, what food will I serve, what decoration will I do. And that is the reason they require at least few months or maybe a year to prepare. So see to it that the marriage is on Islamic guidelines. See to it is simple. And the Prophet said, the best marriage is that in which the least expense is made. Further, Prophet also said that make nikah so simple that zina becomes difficult. Now, nikah has become so difficult and zina is so easy. Nikah means, mere paas kam as kam 5-10 lakh hona chahiye, 5-10 lakhs I should have. Maybe at least I have $50,000, then I can do the nikah, otherwise it's difficult. And zina, easy, few hundred rupees. So, the Prophet said that make nikah so simple that zina becomes difficult. So see to it that the criteria of the nikah ceremony should not be glamour, should not be based on any un-Islamic activities. And when we have the nikah ceremony, see that the hijab is maintained. Normally in our Muslim society, unfortunately, normally we have a lot of intermingling of the sexes during nikah ceremony. Or they may do nikah in a masjid and then have a grand walima. Walima is one of the very important sunnah, that after the marriage takes place, preferably after consummating, walima is given, That's good, alhamdulillah, sunnah. But they want to know nikah simple. When nikah is simple, now walima is not mentioned, walima you do grand. And then you have in a big ground, a lot of decoration, then you spend 50 lakhs, 1 crore, whatever it is. So as far as the nikah to be on the Islamic guidelines, see to it that besides the would-be husband and wife being Islamic, even the atmosphere is Islamic. There should not be intermingling of sexes when you have the reception. See to it that there's separate section for the ladies, separate for the gents. Some places have separate section for ladies, separate for gents, but the stage is common. It doesn't make sense. We have separate sections, but stage is common. You want to display a wife, I'm going to marry such a beautiful girl. Everyone comes and hello, Mubarak ho. So it is not Islamic at all. Hijab has to be maintained. So see to it that the hijab is maintained. The lady is looking at her wife, no problem. Gents looking at you, no problem. Gents looking at the gents, no problem. And see to it that some places you have segregation of sexes, different stage, but then you have waiters, gents waiters going in ladies section. So it's very important. See to it that the hijab is maintained correctly. And this can be discussed even when you're asking questions. My sister asks, what is the list of questions? I can ask her which level of interview, first, second or third. When the final stages, then we can go into the discussion also that how is the nikah going to take place, it will be Islamic guidelines and everything. And see to it that the haram activities like music is not played during the nikah ceremony, there is not too much extravagance, not too much of glamour. There should be simple, nikah can be done very simple. See to it that the meher is fixed as per Islamic guidelines. And one thing that should be given importance to is that see to it that when people come, they, mashallah, the people who you call should get rather a dawah or a message that it is based on Islamic guidelines. And you inspire other people to follow such acts rather than our so-called culture. That a person, tries to click business deals. I'm a businessman, so I have to click business deals, I have to make it posh. Fine, if the person is really stinking rich and if he spends based on his wealth, it's acceptable, but see to it, he doesn't do haram things like music, intermingling of sexes, etc. That's very important. So there are just a few points that how a nikah ceremony can be conducted, and see to it that what is haram in Islam, all the harams, all the list is avoided, and try and do as much as things which are mustahab. Simplicity, instead of spending 10-20 lakhs, you can give that in charity, or you can use that money for earning the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and inshallah your life will be more successful. If you give it the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if Allah has given you, so that thing would inshallah be a benefit for your married life to be conducted in a better way. Hope that answers the question, sister. Yes, you're most welcome.
Kindly guide us as far as the list of questions to be asked to the prospective groom or the bride is concerned.
As far as the list of questions to be asked to the prospective bride or bridegroom, I personally don't know of any list of questions mentioned in the Quran that has to be asked or the Hadith, but seeing the way the verses of the Quran and the Hadith, etc., a person can derive a list of questions that can be asked. And normally, people when they go for a matchmaking, the most important thing is the photograph. And most of them, they reject the prospective bride or bridegroom just by looking at the photograph. Unless a new technology comes where you can come to know the virtue by the photograph. Fine, there can be negative testing. For example, if you find that the girl is immodestly dressed up and reject her, not looking at the beauty, at the immodesty, it's acceptable. Or similarly, if the girl sees a boy who is immodestly dressed up and and if she does, that's a different thing. But normally, the normal routine that we have in our society today, when a bridegroom or a boy goes to select a bride, he asks, khana pakane aata hai kya nahi? Do you know how to cook food or not? Can you cook biryani? And fine, you can take care of the children. These are normal questions which I wouldn't say are useless, but would not be in the top priority. If you have the top 10 or the top 20 or the top 50, I wouldn't put them in the top 10 or top 20. It is important, but it is low down the list. The most important, as I mentioned in my earlier answer, is to find out that the spouse you are going to marry, is he or she virtuous or not. So questions basically should be to find out whether the would-be spouse is virtuous or not. To find the other three criteria, beauty, wealth, nobility, is very easy. Virtue is very difficult. If you want to know she is beautiful or not, you look at her and you come to know. is subjective. Immediately within a few seconds you can decide whether she is beautiful or not. Very easy. You want to come to know how wealthy she is, how wealthy he is, you look at the bank balance, do a little inquiry, the property the person owns, little bit inquiry you have to do whether it's a fraud or not, is it on loan, or does the person own it himself. But it's possible and very easy to find out, and less chances that you'll be deceived as far as coming to know whether the person is wealthy or not. The third criteria, whether the person belongs to a noble family or not, you just look at the sajara or look at the family tree. You know, who are the parents. It's easy. And the chance you'll be right is close to 100. Either 98 or 99%. Beauty immediately you can decide. Wealth also do a little survey. Nobility, 99% you can come to know. And then you can give marks. But as far as giving marks for a person to identify that the person is virtuous is very difficult. You know, we had in our school days, in our college days, in the subject of science and chemistry, we had confirmatory test. We used to call CT. Confirmatory test means you do a test and you confirmed that this element is potassium or it is sodium. Confirmatory test. And there's something like negative testing. Come to know this doesn't belong to this category. Negative testing. So in virtue, doing negative testing is very easy. Is to say that the person is not virtuous is very easy. For example, if a boy goes to select a girl and if she's wearing a skirt and a mini, you can easily say she is not modest. Very easy. But if the girl is wearing hijab, you cannot say for sure that she is modest. So the negative testing in virtue is very easy. You come to know the boy is having alcohol, he is gambling, surely he is not virtuous. Easy. But if he is not having alcohol, you cannot say for sure that he is virtuous. So negative testing, if you find certain criteria in the spouse, in the girl or the boy you're going to marry, if you come to know these negative factors, you can easily put her in the bracket of not virtuous, if these criteria are formed.